He talks about you got to work with people you trust. First of all, you have to trust yourself. You have to trust yourself because no one else matters.
Well, how is your relationship with him now? You said
It's good. It's a real relationship. It's real. You know, we spend a lot of time together.
The rock legend who hated his own generation.
I love you, baby, can I have some more?
Neil Young, the man who built his career on authenticity and rebellion, spent decades secretly worshiping musicians that his folk purist fans would never expect. Tonight, we're exposing the shocking truth about Young's musical obsessions and the bands that drove him to creative madness.
They want, or maybe they all want to do the same thing over and over again. Whatever, it's fine with me, whatever everybody does. Just don't tell me what to do.
You think Neil Young was always an uncompromising artist? Think again. Behind his gruff exterior and anti-establishment image, he was consumed by jealousy and insecurity, constantly measuring himself against his secret musical heroes. These weren't just influences, they were full-blown obsessions that created explosive feuds within the music industry. The folk world has kept these secrets buried for decades, but today we're revealing the 7 bands that Neil Young worshipped above all others. From the country legend who made him question his entire career to the surf rockers who corrupted his folk purity, these artists shaped the most authentic voice in rock in ways that will shock you. Get ready for betrayals, secret pilgrimages, and the musical influences that literally defined Neil Young's tortured genius. 7. The Ventures number 7 will shatter everything you know about Neil Young's folk purity. The Ventures. That's right. While Young was preaching authenticity and anti-commercial values, he was secretly obsessing over 4 guys from Seattle who made instrumental surf rock for teenage beach parties. The shocking truth? Young spent countless hours in his bedroom copying Venture's guitar riffs, abandoning his acoustic folk training for electric surf sounds.
Spread things around. So it's not, for me, it's the feeling of the mix, the feeling of this.
Industry insiders reveal that Neil would play Walk Don't Run until his fingers bled, desperately trying to master their clean, precise technique. But here's where it gets scandalous. This surf rock obsession directly led to Young's controversial electric period that betrayed his folk audience. When he went electric at the 1965 Newport Folk Festival aftermath, he wasn't following Dylan's lead. He was channeling the Ventures' guitar mastery. The folk community felt completely betrayed. Hardcore fans who worshipped Young's acoustic purity had no idea he was secretly practicing surf instrumentals behind closed doors. This revelation sent shockwaves through the folk scene and created the first major crack in Young's credibility. The Ventures didn't just influence Neil Young's guitar playing. They planted the seeds of his electric transformation that would alienate his core fan base forever. 6. Hank Williams. Number 6 is the country legend who taught Neil Young how to suffer. Hank Williams.
Everything been going wrong.
But this wasn't just musical appreciation. This was a dangerous psychological obsession that nearly destroyed Young's mental health and creative identity. Young didn't just listen to Hank Williams, he studied him like a doctoral thesis. Industry sources reveal that Neil kept a secret shrine to Williams in his home, complete with rare recordings and personal memorabilia.
Right. You mentioned that it's a very special guitar.
Yeah, it used to belong to Hank Williams.
That just blows me away.
Yeah, me too.
He would spend entire nights analyzing every crack in Hank's voice, every note of pain and desperation. The shocking truth? Young became convinced that real artistry required real suffering. He allegedly told close friends that Williams had achieved perfect musical authenticity through his personal torment, and Neil desperately wanted to match that level of emotional destruction. This obsession poisoned Young's relationships and mental state. He began romanticizing addiction, depression, and self-destruction as necessary tools for artistic credibility. The folk community was horrified to discover their pure-hearted troubadour was secretly worshiping a troubled country star's darkest demons. The most disturbing revelation? Young reportedly tried to recreate Williams' lifestyle, experimenting with substances, and deliberately sabotaging his happiness to achieve authentic artistic pain. This destructive pursuit of suffering nearly cost him everything he had worked to build in his career. 5. The Beatles' number 5 is the Fab Four who turned Neil Young into a jealous, bitter competitor, the Beatles. But this love story became the most toxic obsession in rock history, and it nearly destroyed Young's confidence forever.
You let me be your man, and please say to me.
Young wasn't just a Beatles fan, he was consumed by envy. Industry insiders reveal that Neil would obsessively study every Beatles album, taking notes on their harmonies, arrangements, and songwriting techniques like he was preparing for war. The shocking truth? Young's entire career became a desperate attempt to prove he was better than the Beatles. He allegedly told intimates that their success was built on pretty faces and commercial manipulation, while real artists like him were ignored by the masses. But here's the devastating irony. Young secretly knew the Beatles were superior songwriters. This admission haunted him for decades.
And I felt close to them over the years, and I have a lot of respect for Paul McCartney as a man.
Creating a bitter rivalry that existed only in his own tortured mind. The Beatles didn't just influence Neil Young's music. They created a lifelong inferiority complex that drove him to increasingly desperate attempts at proving his artistic superiority. He spent sleepless nights rewriting songs, convinced that one perfect composition would finally prove he belonged in their legendary company. The pressure became unbearable, turning his creative process into a psychological battleground where he fought ghosts of his own making. 4. Bob Dylan. Number 4 is the folk prophet who became Neil Young's greatest enemy disguised as a friend, Bob Dylan. This wasn't just artistic rivalry. This was psychological warfare that consumed both legends and nearly destroyed their careers. Young spent his entire life trying to out-Dylan Dylan.
I mean, I love Bob Dylan. I mean, yeah, I think he's great. And in the very beginning, I knew he was great. And yes.
And the competition drove him to creative madness. Industry sources reveal that Neil would obsessively analyze every Dylan album, searching for weaknesses he could exploit in his own music. The shocking truth? Their famous friendship was built on mutual hatred and jealousy. Dylan allegedly mocked Young's voice behind his back, calling it whiny and pretentious, while Young privately raged about Dylan's overrated songwriting abilities. The devastating moment came when they finally collaborated, and Young realized he could never match Dylan's lyrical genius. Witnesses described Neil as visibly broken after recording sessions, knowing he was the inferior songwriter. This rivalry poisoned Young's creativity for decades. Every song became a desperate attempt to prove he belonged in Dylan's league. But the ghost of his superior competitor haunted every note he played. The competition became so toxic that Young would reportedly sabotage his own commercial success just to maintain his artistic credibility against Dylan's perceived superiority. 3. Elvis Presley. Number 3 is the king who taught Neil Young everything about authentic rebellion, Elvis Presley.
I'm all shook up.
But this worship turned into bitter disillusionment that scarred Young's relationship with fame forever.
This day, I'm playing with him tomorrow night. I mean, we are very, very close.
You know, I interviewed
Young idolized early Elvis like a religious figure, studying every hip movement and vocal inflection. Industry insiders reveal that Neil would practice Elvis's stage presence for hours, convinced that mastering the king's charisma would unlock rock stardom. But here's where the obsession turned toxic. When Young witnessed Elvis's Vegas transformation, he was completely devastated. The rebel who had inspired his entire career had become everything Neil despised about commercial entertainment. The betrayal cut deeper than anyone realized. Young allegedly told close friends that watching Elvis's decline was like watching his own future, terrifying him about what success could do to artistic integrity. This trauma shaped Young's entire approach to fame. His legendary resistance to commercial pressure and his constant career sabotage were direct reactions to Elvis's cautionary tale. The king's fall from grace haunted every decision Neil made about his artistic direction. Young became so paranoid about following Elvis's path that he would deliberately alienate audiences and record labels, choosing artistic purity over commercial success at every opportunity. 2. The Everly Brothers #2 is the harmony duo who drove Neil Young to desperate attempts at musical perfection. The Everly Brothers.
Want you to know that since you walked out on me.
But this wasn't just admiration. This was a soul-crushing obsession that revealed Young's deepest insecurities about his own limitations. Don and Phil Everly represented everything Young knew he could never achieve: natural musical telepathy and effortless vocal harmony. Industry sources reveal that Neil would spend sleepless nights trying to recreate their sound as a solo artist, layering guitar parts to mimic their seamless brotherhood. The shocking truth? Young was secretly jealous of every musical partnership he witnessed because he knew he lacked the Everlys' intuitive connection. He allegedly told intimates that their genetic musical bond was something no amount of practice could replicate. Here's the devastating irony. Young's entire solo career was built on his inability to find an Everly Brothers-style partner.
Heard and loved so much the harmony that the Everly Brothers put out from the very beginning on Cadence Records.
Every collaboration felt forced and artificial compared to their natural chemistry. This obsession poisoned Young's relationships with other musicians. He became impossible to work with, constantly searching for the magical connection that the Everly Brothers possessed, but knowing he was doomed to remain a musical loner forever. 1. Hank Snow. #1 will destroy everything you thought you knew about Neil Young. Hank Snow. Not Dylan, not Elvis, not the Beatles. A Canadian country legend became Young's ultimate musical obsession.
Mr. Engineer, take the throttle in hand. The throttle of the fastest in the southern land.
And the shocking reasons why will change how you hear every Neil Young song forever. Hank Snow didn't just influence Neil Young's storytelling, he created the entire template for Young's career. Industry insiders reveal that Neil made secret pilgrimages to Nashville just to study Snow's songwriting techniques, treating the country master like a musical prophet. Here's the bombshell that the music industry buried for decades. Young's entire artistic identity was stolen from Hank Snow's playbook. The rambling narratives, the train imagery, the lonely wanderer persona. It was all Snow's genius repackaged for the rock generation. The psychological damage was devastating. Young reportedly became obsessed with proving he could match Snow's storytelling abilities, leading to increasingly pretentious lyrics that alienated his core fan base. The ultimate irony? While millions praised Young's authentic voice and original songwriting, Neil knew he was just a rock and roll copycat of a country master most people had never heard of. Hank Snow represented the impossible standard that drove Young to creative madness. Every song became a desperate attempt to honor his secret hero, while hiding the truth about his borrowed artistic identity. So there you have it, the musical obsessions that shaped a legend and tortured his soul. From surf rock betrayals to country worship, Neil Young's secret influences reveal the insecurities behind his authentic image. Which of these shocking revelations surprised you most? Smash that like button if you learned something new, drop a comment with your favorite Young influence, and subscribe for more explosive music history secrets that will blow your mind.